Hey everyone, I'm Black Lightning. Today's lesson is going to be about transgendered people. I decided to work on a feminine voice for this avatar. I don't want to use a voice modulator. I want authenticity. Until I can sound feminine, I'll stick to the masculine voice. For now, it's a cross-dressing avatar with magical boobs that can grow and revert back. The day I can sound feminine is the day when this will become a real gender-bent avatar. So I'm replying to the Doctor of Common Sense's video called The Absurdity in Transgendered People, Damit.
But you know the funny thing I find about people who say they don't want to be judgmental? The people who was always saying they don't judge me are the main ones always judging your conversation. Now why is it okay for somebody to judge everything? I said that's hate speech. Wait a minute. I said that you shouldn't be able to get, two men shouldn't be able to get married, two women shouldn't be able to get married. I didn't say I wanted to kill you. That's my right, and I firmly believe that there's a definition of marriage.
You have every right to have that opinion, and everyone else have every right to criticize your opinion. What I don't agree with is people trying to censor what other people have to say. I would never censor those who disagree with me or happen to dislike the LGBT community. You're free to disagree, but I too am free to disagree with you. What I hope is a civil exchange of information so that both sides get to understand each other. You can think of what you want about marriage. The definition has changed to include same-sex couples as well. There's nothing wrong with more US citizens being able to get married with other consenting adults.
Just like there's a definition of a dog, there's a definition of a cow. Nobody looks at a damn horse and says that's an elephant, because today the horse feels like an elephant. I don't care how the horse feels.
And this is your segue into the topic of transgendered people. From the animal's perspective, they most likely have no idea of the classifications we give them. These classifications and names is a human concept. A horse doesn't know it's a horse, and an elephant doesn't know it's an elephant. They just act on their instinctual drives and pay no attention to the classifications we humans give them. It serves no practical purpose to them. We humans happen to be a highly social species, and no other species on Earth is as complex as us humans. We rely more on these labels than any other species on Earth. In other words, the point you're about to make is ridiculous.
Horse can feel like an elephant all he wants to. He can make elephant noises. He can paint himself. They can paint the horse gray. That ain't making that horse gray. They can go chop his tail off. They can give him an elephant's head and all this kind of crap. He's still a freaking horse.
No, it's a horse with elephant body parts, or an elephant with horse body parts, whichever you prefer. To call this hypothetical animal entirely a horse is inaccurate. I'm just waiting for you to tie this into transgendered people.
This is the type of insanity. Matter of fact, he's gonna look like a Frankenstein horse. You're gonna put an elephant head on him anyway. But this is the insanity, because people say that this person, Jeff over here, like, let's just use Bruce Jenner, because Bruce Jenner has been in the news so much. Bruce over here says he's been trapped inside the wrong body all his life. Well, you know what? I've been trapped inside the wrong bank account all my life.
You've been trapped in the wrong bank account? Are you implying that you're some sort of entity that exists inside bank accounts? I can clearly see from this video that you're a human being. That makes no sense. I'll talk about what I think you meant by that. You're trying to compare you wanting more money to a man wanting to become a woman in an attempt to be funny. What you did was make a logical fallacy, the fallacy of false equivalence. You wanting a higher paycheck is not comparable to wanting to change your gender. One has to do with income, and the other has to do with how you wish to identify yourself.
Technically, I'm supposed to have Bill Gates' money. I don't understand why I don't have his money, but it ain't fair.
What gives you the reason to believe you should have Bill Gates' money? You haven't listed any reason why you should have his money. At least transgender people give you reasons as to why they feel the way they do.
When I was born to be a billionaire, but I don't got his money. So Bill Gates needs to give up the money, because I need to start getting Bill Gates money. Or the American people just can give me billions and billions of dollars, because technically I was born a billionaire.
Obviously, you wasn't born a billionaire, but it doesn't mean you can't work hard to become one. That doesn't mean it's going to be easy. I'm going to use this time to tell you what science has to say about transgendered people. particularly transsexed or transsexual people. It's still not complete, but there's a growing consensus that there are biological factors involved and as to why someone wants to transition. These biological factors include genetics, brain structure, brain function, and prenatal androgen exposure. I'm going to show you 2 abstracts from studies done on transsexuals. If you don't know what an abstract is, it's a brief summary of a research article, thesis, review, conference proceeding, or any in-depth analysis of a particular subject or discipline, and is often used to help the reader quickly ascertain the paper's purpose. This study concluded that there's evidence that male gender identity might be partly mediated through the androgen receptor. The method in coming to this conclusion included 112 male-to-female transsexuals and 258 non-transsexual males. Associations and interactions were investigated between CAG repeat length in the androgen receptor gene, CA repeat length in the estrogen receptor beta gene, and TTA repeat length in the CYP19 gene, and male-to-female transsexualism. Here's the other abstract from another study: white matter microstructure in female-to-male transsexuals before cross-sex hormonal treatment, a diffusion tensor imaging study. It explains that some gray and white matter regions of the brain are sexually dimorphic. Sexual dimorphism is a phenotypic differentiation between males and females of the same species. I might make a video about sexual dimorphism sometime in the future, but that's basically what it is. Males are structured differently from females, and the percentage of this differentiation varies across different species. The results from this study show that the white matter microstructure pattern in untreated female-to-male transsexuals is closer to the pattern of subjects who share their gender identity, male, than those who share their biological sex, female. My sources are in the description. To show that I'm not biased, I searched for scientists who were against the idea that there are biological factors involved in transgender and transsexed people. I wanted to see if there was a study that contradicted the studies in favor of transgendered people. What stood out the most were psychiatric experts, such as Dr. Joseph Berger, that says, scientifically there are no such thing as transgender, that all of them are mentally ill or simply unhappy. He also says those advocating for special rights for gender-confused people have no scientific value and are subjective and emotional appeals with no objective scientific basis. I guess all of these studies done on transgender people were all for naught. I have the article in my list of sources. The big problem with experts such as this guy is that they don't bring forth any scientific evidence that contradict the studies in favor of transgender and transsexed people. They just say transgender people are mentally ill or unhappy and leave it at that. Once again, the scientific evidence for transgender people is not complete, but there is a growing consensus that there are biological factors involved. In other words, for now, transgender people are not mentally ill, and transsexed people have a legit condition that can be mitigated by HRT and/or a sex change.
But I have not come into my billionaireness. But this is the same illogical statement that people are saying, I was born in the wrong body. I've never seen such an absurd statement for somebody saying they was born in the wrong freaking body. You don't even see animals being this stupid. You never see a monkey saying, I was really born a lion. I have no business being a monkey.
Another fallacy of false equivalence. The examples you bring up are animals that want to be a different species, while transgender people want to identify as an alternative gender. One has to do with gender expression, and another has to do with an unrealistic desire to be another animal. I already explained why an animal might not want to be another animal, and the same goes with humans. Let's say one day we have the technology to convert a human into another animal. Why would anyone give up their superior intelligence to be another animal? You might not harbor the same desires in life you had as a human. The cognitive abilities of another animal will most likely add limitations to your thoughts and actions. With transgender people, there is no such risk as that. They are still the same human they've always been. If you make another animal wanting to be another animal example, I'm going to skip it because I've already given my reasons as to why I think you're wrong.
See, that's how we monkey with everything that's rational. That's what I'm talking about, the common sense logic. Notice a lot of times,
Skip.
when you see the lion, he roars like a lion. A lion ain't over here making hoo hoo hoo, acting like a monkey, because a lion knows who he is. You'll never see a cow saying woo woo.
Skip.
They're so warped in the brain, we can't get basic elements like male and female right. I think they got some Girl Scouts now when they want to take out whether it's boy and girl. In other words, let's stop calling it Boy and Girl Scouts now. They be calling it just Scouts.
There's no need to change the name of the Boy and Girl Scouts. The transgender people you're referring to want to stay within the male-female gender binary. I see transgender men and transgender women as different variants of men and women. They're still men and women nonetheless, but sometimes a transgender woman might have a penis, and a transgender man might have a vagina. And in my opinion, it doesn't make them any less of the man or woman they are. There's no right or wrong way to be a woman or man. I'm not talking about the biological classification of male and female of a species, just the gender expression. There's no natural law or guidelines that tell us how a man and woman should express themselves. It's completely up to the individual. Even though I identify as a man, I express myself in ways that can be considered feminine. And no, I'm not talking about this avatar. I'm having too much fun with this. I meant that on certain days I want to express myself more feminine than usual. Since I can't cross-dress right now, the urge to do so stays trapped inside. Moving on.
Because somebody's gonna get offended. Go start your own freaking Scouts and you can call it the Transgender Scout. Why you gotta corrupt that Scouts? Because this is what happens. That's why I call them the homosexual mafia, because they do everything in their power to try to force their opinion on you.
Seriously? The homosexual mafia? When you see the world change in favor of the LGBT community, it doesn't mean that people are forcing their agenda on you. Right now, African Americans are better off in America now than we have ever been in the past. But it doesn't stop racist assholes from thinking less of us. The same goes for the LGBT community. No matter how much progress we make, there will still be people who share your sentiments on the LGBT community. No one's going to force you to agree with or approve of the LGBT community. I, at least, don't need your approval. Just like I, as an African American, don't need someone from another race to approve of my existence. It's futile and foolish to try to get the world to approve of you. There's always going to be assholes in this world, and there's nothing that can be done about that. And then there are people who are not assholes but just indifferent towards you. Just be you, whether people approve of you or not. Of course, filter your actions based on the environments you're in. Your value as a person is something only you can give.
Cakes by Melissa. They have literally ran those people out of business because they wouldn't bake these freaks a cake. Bake your own damn cake, or go get somebody else who don't mind breaking your freaking cake.
I actually agree with that. There's no need to sue a small business just because they won't sell their products to you. We live in a capitalist society. Let your wallets do the talking. If enough people stop giving them business, maybe that will make them change their position. Suing every business that discriminates against you will only add more fuel to their fire. You have to make them say, okay, we will now bake a cake for a same-sex couple, instead of you saying, bake the cake or else I'll sue you. The former sounds a lot better, right? When trying to fix a problem, make sure you don't become a part of it.
Stop comparing yourself to the civil rights movement too. It's embarrassing. Dude, you are a dude. Woman, you're a woman. Ain't nothing hateful about that. It's rational common sense. And I told you, we need to take a good dose of basic common sense and stop catering to these freaks, acting like they lost their damn mind.
Calling them freaks says a lot about how much you think about transgender people. Yeah, it's okay to disagree with the LGBT community, but you leave me with the impression that you have an irrational dislike of transgender people. If that's the case, I won't take your position seriously.
There is no such thing as a transgender. Fool, you was born a dude. I don't care if Cher's son/daughter was mixed up. That's why the heifer's overweight now. Because now she's taking all these hormones and telling me she's depressed. I'll be depressed too. I'm born a woman. I want to take all these hormone things and stuff. Now I'm trying to pretend like I'm a man. That's why they miserable. And most of them have to go out that way to seem happy. That's why they try to make gay. I'm so happy. No, they're not happy. No way you can be happy taking stiff ones in the rear. And no way you can be happy constantly trying to live your life as something you was not born of.
Who are you to tell someone else that they are not happy? Your reasoning behind your position is getting absurd around this point if it hasn't already. And now you're saying people can't be happy during anal sex? I think you're projecting your reaction to anal sex onto other people. A lot of people happen to enjoy it, even heterosexuals, believe it or not. I think you're letting your name get to you.
That's like me going to get a Mercedes-Benz and say I'm going to start pulling 50-foot trailers with a Mercedes-Benz. It wasn't built for that.
And do you have an idea of what a man and woman was quote-unquote built for? Once again, there is no specific way of how a man and a woman should act and look when it comes to gender identity. What it means to be a man and a woman changes from one society to the next in different time periods. Gender identity is affected by both nature and nurture. It's not one or the other, it's a combination of the two. You're making another fallacy of false equivalence. What does the functionality of a vehicle have to do with gender identity?
Certain things were built for certain things. I know this makes some of you upset. Like you don't use a computer like for hammering nails in, because the computer was not built to hammer damn nails. A computer was built to either type, research things on the internet, type papers, do things like that. If you have a printer is used to print out papers, copies of what you want to see. A printer is not used for skydiving. You said, this is my parachute. My printer is. I'm going to attach this printer to my backpack, and I'm going to jump out the airplane, and I'm going to make it on fly, because in my mind, the printer is a freaking parachute.
Once again, the technology you mentioned has a specific purpose that they were built for. Humans, on the other hand, don't have a specific purpose. We have a large array of capabilities that's not limited to one specific task. Not all men act and look the same, and the same goes for women.
That's not going to end well for you, because one day you're going to jump out of a perfectly good plane. Not that I would ever jump out of a perfectly moving plane.
I'm going to skip this bit because it has nothing to do with the topic at hand.
Why don't you, if you can just change anything to be what you want it to be, go get yourself a typewriter or a printer. Put it in your backpack, go jump out of an airplane, and says...
I've covered this already. Skip.
I can help you see the picture clearly. Some things are built for certain things. You don't have to be that smart to figure it out. That's not homophobic. That's not trying to offend you. That's common logic. And when you ignore common logic, bad things happen.
No, that's flawed logic. You're still comparing devices that have a specific purpose to humans who don't have such a purpose. What a human wants to do in life is entirely up to the individual, as long as it's within their range of abilities and income. A man identifying as a woman and a woman identifying as a man is well within their range to do so. The technology is there, and the sexual dimorphism of human males and females is not that great for it to be an impossible task. It's quite possible that in the future, trans men or trans women can produce a child with cisgendered people, but that doesn't mean they are any less of a man and woman right now. Cisgender people, if you don't know, are people whose gender identity align with the sex they were born as. If you want to determine if someone is a man or a woman based on their reproductive ability, then according to you, infertile cisgender people are less of a man or woman. If you want to shift the goalpost to whatever sex you were born as is what makes you a man or woman, then you're not taking into account of the other parts of their biology. The person's brain structure and function seems to play a role in gender identity. Sure, the evidence isn't conclusive yet, but the studies so far seem to be in favor of transgender people. You're talking about transgender people as if they're trying to live their lives as another species, but that's not true. Trans men and trans women are not that much different from cisgender people, gender-wise, and those who can finally be themselves are happy. I've heard of some trans people who regretted the sex change due to rushing into it. A lot of conservative news sites will be sure to let you know that and use those few examples to tell you that all trans people regret their sex change. My advice is to make sure that this is something you really want. The sex change and/or HRT is only one piece of the whole picture. If you don't have the mind for it, you're going to regret it. From what I've researched, the happy trans people outweigh the ones who regretted it. The trans people who are still not happy after they have the sex change and/or HRT is usually because they have a lot of people like you that they have to deal with daily. Those who have no problem calling them freaks. Sure, you can live life without the whole world accepting you, but it's stressful when you have to deal with those who don't accept you more than those who do. Dude, have some empathy. I can understand being skeptic on the claims of transgender people having a biological cause to their gender identity, but the insult is not warranted. I can't stop you from doing so, and you have every right to say whatever it is you want to say in America. I'm just giving you some advice because no one likes an asshole who they aren't on good terms with. Anyways, thanks for watching and take care.